Welcome to part 3 of our series following Rex Fendick, a CANLOAN officer around Normandy. And hopefully you've seen part 1, which we showed our trip around Normandy, where we went. Then part 2, which covered Rex's journey from Gold Beach through to Caen or Calix in Operation GOODWOOD. And then this is part 3. So this is going to cover from Caen to Troarn. All part is Operation GOODWOOD. This is pretty much the last part for now, anyway. So we will cover as much as possible. We were thankfully joined by Paul Woodage of World War II TV for this. He drove us around over into this area, which would have been a little bit too far out for us to cycle and cover as much ground as we did. So, following the route that Rex took for Operation GOODWOOD, we went down and across the river from their area in Colville-sur-Orne. We actually filmed that as part of our cycle ride on our way back to the ferry, and then into Vickers, which was quite an interesting walk round, and up through into Troarn. Now, disappointingly, I didn't film too much during this trip. A few things, yes, but not massively, not as much as I had on other days. So it'll be a bit more voiceover with photos, but we'll cut the original photos that we've got as well and maps to hopefully make it a bit more interesting. So as we start following Rex's journey, he sets off from Colville, where he'd been beefed by Pat, his company commander. But Pat was drunk, and that caused quite some problems, as you can read, as they headed down to the bridge. Now, you can have a read of those. There's obviously some issues there with command and leadership, and Rex's views on those are throughout his book, which is quite interesting. It's a good understanding of that, the leadership qualities for unit command, subunit command. But eventually they get to the bridge. Now, it's not clear which bridge they go across, but clearly there were a large number of Bailey bridges that have been put across the Orne River and Canal, so that there could be these formations of men and ahead of Operation GOODWOOD. So we sort of followed that route. But then he heads over to Vickers, which was their forming up point. So their forming up point, their concentration area was Vickers, so just east of the Orne there. They'd have come across on one of the bridges down here, possibly Bénéville there, down through Ronville and into Vickers. Now, they spent the night there, but in doing so, let's turn that photo on a minute. Rex took this photo, and this photo is one that we weren't able to match up from mapping it alone. So we're actually on Google Maps proper, not the map we've marked up now, just so we can use Street View in a moment. But what we did, and this is great thanks to Paul Woodage of World War II TV for his translation and also his confidence in just popping into the mairie, so down here. We knew the mairie was the post office. It's the post office in the photo, so the mairie is the post office now, and we thought maybe it's a courtyard out the back or something like that, or maybe it's just an old building and the mairie was new. So we went down here and basically asked the lady behind the desk whether she could identify where the photo was. She said no, but she'll ask somebody else. She went in, asked somebody else. She said, somebody came out and said, I'm not really sure, but if you just wait a moment, we'll try and help you. And somebody else eventually came out and said, yes, they thought they knew where it was. And we were prepared to be pointed down the road, but no, she went and grabbed her sunglasses, and it was a lovely day, actually, so I think any excuse to get out of the office would have been welcomed. But she took us down the road, back past where we'd parked. So we'd parked up in the Aide de Camping-Car, so the motorhome site there, down Avenue de Caen, just past here, and actually took us down to look at these houses here near the church. So obviously the old part of the town. And in doing so, she quite confidently, and this is quite remarkable, she identified this round window on the building here and said, there you go, that's what you want. And she was absolutely right. So we managed to, there's some changes to the building on the right-hand side, but we were able to match up this position. So, just down from where the church is there, and Rex must have been sat in his carrier, almost where the Google car is there, in front of this wall, looking back over this side of the road and taking a photo of the post office there. So thankfully, with all that help, we were able to identify where Rex had been. Now, the next step of Rex's journey was south out of Vickers, through Escaville, and then south again down to Touffreville and into Sonneville. They were travelling with the 1st Battalion and Royal Ulster Rifles as sort of their attached machine guns. So they came down. They came down this route here, and then turned left through Rue Pasteur, and then north up to Rue de Muguet. And at the church here, there's the memorial to Operation Goodwood, which we stopped and spotted and had a walk round through. And then we moved up this route here to the bomb crater. Now, Rex talks about this as being a traffic jam causing bomb crater. So, as we can see there, it needed bridging before the traffic could exit Sonneville up to the ridge. And Tom's managed to find this in an IWM photo that's reversed or flipped. Anyway, but yeah, we have managed to sort of find some evidence of that. And we had a look round, so you can see from the ground that this is quite a narrow road, and it looks like there would have been some walls. This farm would have been a walled farm anyway, and you can and possibly come all the way out to the road. Maybe those walls were damaged as part of the bombing as well. So you've got this quite a narrow pass here that then comes round and over the bridge here, Ruisseau de Pompel, and then up to the ridge itself. So following up to the zoom out a bit more, up to this ridge where they engaged a bit more. But like I say, this was with the 1st Royal Ulster Rifles, and say the bomb crater certainly warranted discussion. So as Rex moved up to the Bavent Ridge, they moved up the Rue de Muguet past the brickworks on the right hand side here, and they moved up to this T-junction and set up the guns in this position here. Rex was quite keen. He travelled up with Royal Ulster Rifles on the trail of one of their 6-pounders. He wanted to get into position quite quickly himself to reconnaissance it before the rest of the platoon reached him. And so they set up the guns in here and were firing in direct fire positions at the enemy. So there was a barn here, which was their 1st platoon target, and then there was a chateau further over where they brought down continuous fire. So this, he talks of the Royal Ulster Rifles Regimental Aid position where Hatherley was taken. More on that in a moment. And they moved down to the end of a small track. Now this is all a narrow lane, so where Rex was with the Royal Ulster Rifles Orders Group, so that would be the platoon commanders and the fighting elements of the men of the Royal Ulster Rifles, trying to work out what support to give them. So they came under sniper fire there, but the overall ridge, this was important for them to then move down into the north of Troarn. So moved southeast here to take that. Now, I mentioned Hatherley in relation to the regimental aid post. Hatherley was one of the members of the platoon, Rex's platoon. It was Private William Frank Norman Hatherley, and he was wounded and eventually died of his wounds. So Rex records it that just before I took the guns out of action, we had one stonk and Hatherley was hit by a splinter in his side. He didn't seem too bad and walked back the couple of 100 yards to the Ulster's regimental aid post, the RAP, supported by 2 of his mates. I spoke to him as they helped him back, and half an hour later I went into the RAP to see him. Hatherley was lying on a stretcher with his side uncovered. I could see his wound, just a small hole below his ribs and not bleeding. The little stone building was crammed with casualties, and the MO, medical officer, was very busy, so couldn't tell me much. We talked a bit, and Hatherley was quite cheerful, but he died in the night before he could be evacuated. He was an older man, must have been pushing 40, quiet and well-liked, very willing, and always did more than his share. Now, the Commonwealth War Graves Commission record him as having died on the 20th of July 1944, aged 35, and he's buried at La Délivrande War Cemetery at Douvres. Now, that's quite a distance from this point near Troarn, so he was taken. Don't know why he was taken that distance, but he was certainly taken some distance, either for burial or perhaps moved back as a regimental aid post. Perhaps he was evacuated, I don't know, but it certainly is quite the distance. And we visited that on one of our rides back into Normandy one day, back into Caen, back into the hotel. So, La Delivrande War Cemetery has quite a number of graves, and Private Hatherley is there, and there's he's alongside many members of the 3rd Division, and it's one of the sort of poignant reminders that CANLOAN isn't just a good tale of machine gunnery and machine gunners and technical, but Rex did lose men under his command. Thank you for watching. Please remember to like and share the video and subscribe to the channel. Please support us on Patreon if you're able to, and let us know of anything you'd like to see in the future. I look forward to hearing from you.